Even though the crew from TigerKing had been here over the course of 5 years and sometimes for days at a time, filming anything and everything that they wanted to film, instead of showing the beautiful grounds that are Big Cat Rescue, that everybody who's ever visited here knows is Big Cat Rescue, they chose instead to use old footage from back in the 90s and footage that was taken purposely to make it look like the cats were suffering in horrible small cages by the people who hate us because we are speaking out against the abuse of speed breeding cats, ripping their cubs away, pimping them out as pay to play props, and then killing them. So that should tell you something right there, that they chose to take those kinds of images to show the world and to try and make people believe that that's what Big Cat Rescue is, when it's absolutely not. We have so many videos that you can see what every cage here looks like at Big Cat Rescue. We do live videos every day practically, and you can see as we're walking around, there's no part of the sanctuary that we hide from you. We don't take tours around our bobcats who are in rehab for being released back to the wild, but you'll be able to see it in this video here, and we have a lot of surveillance cameras out there that we show you what those cages are like. The property is 67 acres. We currently have 49 exotic cats that are permanent residents, and we have one bobcat who is in rehab to go back to the wild. And then we have, I think, 6 hybrid cats, so like Bengal cats and Savannah cats, which I think it's important to point out that I don't believe cats belong in cages. And that's why I'm being called a hypocrite, because I keep saying cats don't belong in cages. And then they're like, well, why do you have them in cages? I have them in cages because they can't go free. And there is a page at bigcatrescue.org/go free that explains that, one, it's illegal. You can't take a captive born exotic cat and turn it loose in the wild anywhere. And while it may work for small cats like bobcats or lynx, it does not work for lions or tigers, despite the stupid programming that you may have seen on television that made it look like that's a thing. It's not a thing. Ask anybody who's involved in conservation, and they will say there is no program that has ever successfully released a captive-born lion or tiger back to the wild. And so I really hope people will take the time to learn more about that subject. But back to the cages, you may say, well, this vacation rotation area, it's 2.5 acres. Of course, that's large, and our cats, our big cats, get to rotate through there once a month. A different cat gets that 2.5 acres to themselves. But what about the other cats? What about the ones that can't be in an open roof type cage? They have to have a roof based on Florida state law. So those cages are built in these kind of snaky conformations, and it's really hard to tell how big they are. But if you look at how Zucari can run from one end of his all the way down to the other end, and you can't even see him all the way to the end because it goes back into the woods, and the golf cart couldn't get back there because it's not on the tour path. But you can see that they have enough space that they can really get up and run. Our opponents also like to point to the fact that our cats are fed in those feeding lockouts and try to make people believe that that's their entire cage, which is absolutely ridiculous. Exotic cats are solitary by nature. The exception to that would be lions, but those are lions who were born into family groups where they all know each other. In captivity, they don't want to share space. They don't want to share toys. They don't want to share food. They don't want to share. They're big cats. They're not made for sharing. And so at Big Cat Rescue, if they don't want to live together, they don't have to. And what you'll see at a lot of other places is, to maximize on space, they will throw the animals all in together. And if you look at those animals, they are covered in scars and scrapes and bites and have pieces of their ears and tails missing. If you look especially in the cats that were in TigerKing, their faces were just covered in those little lines. Those little lines, each one of those was a scratch or a bite that cat suffered at the hands and teeth of somebody else in their cage because they were being forced to live in groups when it's so unnatural for them. At Big Cat Rescue, our smallest cage is 1,200 square feet. My house at home is not even 1,200 square feet. That smallest cage is for a bobcat. Bobcats range in size from about 15 to 30 pounds max. So each cat that size has at least that much space that is all theirs. It has a dirt floor with grass and trees and shrubs and dens and pools and toys and enrichment that's delivered every day by the volunteers. So we try to give them the best life we can because they can't go free. They're stuck in that cage for the rest of their lives. The smaller cats also have an area called Funcation, and it's a 22,000 square foot space that is all under roof, which is required by Florida law that they have to have a roof for some of the small cat species. But every 2 weeks, a different cat gets that space to themselves, and so they get something different to do. There's just no way to give a captive cat the kind of life that they would have in the wild, where they would roam hundreds of square miles. In fact, we had a bobcat that was in rehab, and I had her on a camera, and I was able, from the size of the cage, the rehab cages are 4,600 square feet, and so I was able to tell from the path that she took. In a single night, she traveled over 16 miles. So what kind of a 20-pound bobcat that can travel 16 miles in a single night just out for a stroll? There's no cage that's ever going to be sufficient for a cat like that, and that's why we should stop breeding them for life in cages. Earlier in this video, you might have seen cats drinking from a water bowl that is mounted on a box that is elevated toward the top of their feeding lockout. The reason for this is that in the wild, cats pee in water, streams, rivers, lakes, so that other animals don't know they're in the area. You have to put the water bowl above where the cat's tail would be so that they can't pee in the water. Otherwise, the minute you go out there and clean the water bowl, they will turn right around and pee in it, just like when you clean your litter box at home and your cat just has to go right away. It's exactly the same with big cats. So the question you should be asking is, why doesn't anybody else do that? Why doesn't anybody else care whether or not their cats are getting fresh water, clean water, every time they go to get a drink? We don't believe that cats belong in cages, but once they've been born into captivity, they have no other alternatives. So we try to give them the best possible cage that we can. We're happy to have you watch us on our many live broadcasts. We have live webcams all around the property, and see for yourself what kind of life these cats have at Big Cat Rescue.